among the strikers that Arsenal are looking at, which is their priority position, you've got Victor Gyokeres, Ollie Watkins in the mix, Sesko's of the younger bracket. And so if they do go for one of the older options in attack, in the number 9 role, also bringing in, say, an 8-10 of that age profile, it is a thrilling prospect for the Arsenal fans that want them to challenge for trophies next season. But it will be a factor in any kind of decision, also, and how far they're willing to push financially. And within this conversation does somebody need to depart? When I reported this, I said that part is unclear at the minute.
Right.
Is there going to be an exit? And there's been a lot of chatter around a Martinelli, a Trossard, maybe some of the others in there. That's something we just don't know yet, and it's worth being mindful of as supporters see the coverage around that topic.
Okay, well, something else that's still a bit unclear to me. Martin Zubimendi. What's happening there?
He's going to be announced at some point very soon.
Imminently. Could it have happened by the time this releases?
That is plausible.
Okay.
Because I think I reported, say, a week ago with our colleague James McNicholas that Zubimendi had been in London to meet Arsenal officials as part of the process of finalising and completing his move to Arsenal. Mm-hmm. That has been regarded as done and signed by Arsenal for some weeks, maybe even months. Arsenal have been factoring him into their, Mikel Arteta's, plans for the new season. What are Arsenal going to do in terms of Zubimendi, Rice, Norgard is incoming from Brentford, Marino? There's a lot of possibilities in there, and I think Arsenal are pretty pleased with how their new central midfield is going to be shaping up.
Well, just before we talk about how it might be shaping up, Norgard, to me at least, seemed to kind of come out of nowhere. What about to you? Were you expecting that one?
So it was a surprise to me, yep. No problem with that, but I didn't break that one. But when you look at the situation, think about it, his profile, 31 years old, Premier League ready, already in London as well. Yeah. He's the Brentford captain, Denmark international. He's got a pretty consistent record of appearances, not terribly troubled by injuries. He contributes goals as well.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does. And I think Arsenal will be pretty satisfied at getting him.
Well, we've alluded to it already, but what do you think it's going to look like in the midfield area? A lot of new faces.
Yeah, I mean, it'll look like this.
Right.
He'll exactly the same as always. Norgard can replace Zubimendi when he's not there. They obviously have a lot of games to play, so you need a bit of cover. There is a world in which he could play alongside him, because Zubimendi is a very creative player, could then feasibly push up a little bit if you don't have Rice available or Odegaard or something like that. Obviously, you can't play 12 players at once. Sure. The joke I always make, which isn't funny anymore. But if you look at some numbers for Norgard, what we'll see is that Christian Norgard makes a lot of tackles and interceptions for Brentford.
Wow.
In fact, did you know?
He made one really big one in the middle there.
That was the biggest interception of all.
Wow.
Interception of our hearts.
Like
since he joined,
he laughed at my joke. Yeah.
I need some new jokes as we have established. Since he joined the Premier League, he was promoted in, I think it was 2021. No player has made more interceptions than Norgard in the entire of the Premier League.
Right.
Did you know that?
I didn't know that, but now
I made a video about it, so you're going to be watching my videos. Yeah. Also, he's made a lot of tackles. I think it's like 3 or 2 players are made more than him at that same time. Right. Sounds like a very defensive player, but Brentford sit a lot deeper. So he's got lots of interceptions here, defensive actions here. Comparing him to Jorginho much fewer. He's not as mobile. Jorginho is more of a lovely passing type player. Norgard's a bit more defensive. Doesn't mean he can't do that, because he plays a lot of through balls. You go through any games you watch him play, he snaps onto the ball, passes it forward, he moves things forward. He's not just just a good place for Brentford, and he's not really famous, doesn't mean he doesn't do much. Yeah. So I think this is the thing to remember. But Zubimendi's also a very defensively active player too. So I think it's just good cover to have. I like it personally. I think it's a really smart little transfer.
It's exciting, isn't it? What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I think with Norgard, it just makes a lot of sense. When you look at Arsenal last season, they were hit with a lot of injuries. And when you're going into the new season, especially with the Champions League as well, you'd want someone like a Norgard rather than having to rely on someone you don't really trust. And I think when you speak about, I guess, Jorginho, I think it helps that he has probably more physical capacity, as you mentioned, JJ. So yeah, with that one, I think it makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't say like I was over the moon excited, but I was just like, yeah, that makes sense. So I'm cool with it.
Poor Christian Norgard, you're not over the moon. Yeah.
And we talked earlier about whether there were other options. The one that Arsenal's sort of in-house recruitment team had been working on for some time prior to Andrea Berta's arrival as sporting director was the young player from Rosenborg, who's ended up going to Manchester City, Sverre Nipan. Right. So they were looking at somebody for the future who could be one of the next big things in football in a way that Tottenham bought in a Bergvall a year ago, or a year and a half ago. Yeah. what Arsenal have ended up doing is going for experience, and we talked with the Eze possibility about a win now mentality. You know, they're also looking at a couple of options for the striker who are of an older age, as we touched upon before. They've brought in a goalkeeper in Kepa who is experienced and has won trophies, and they have a couple more positions that they're looking at. And I don't know, just say the left wing. Their options include, say, a Rodrygo from Real Madrid, who's played at the top level and has won things. So this is bit by bit shaping up to be an Arsenal recruitment operation and team and squad that, yeah, it still contains plenty of youth and there's much to be optimistic about for the future. But Arteta, with what seems like growing external expectation and pressure, I don't think that same pressure is internal. The biggest pressure is probably what he puts on himself. But to win next season and to really convert those second place finishes into maybe a Premier League trophy or getting that step further in the Champions League after reaching the semi-finals, now is the time, and maybe that's being reflected in their business in the transfer market.
I mean, it's my personal opinion that they should try to win now. I think
That'd be helpful.
Noni Madueke, there's lots of stories regarding his future. He's still here. He's still very much a Chelsea player. He came on as a second half substitute last night against Palmeiras. And for what it's worth, I thought he played really, really well when he replaced Christopher Nkunku. He really stretched the Palmeiras defence, opened the game up for Chelsea. A game, of course, which they went on to win 2-1. Now, his future is pretty simple. There are question marks about it. It's not simple, it's complicated because he's got 5 years left on his contract. Other clubs want to sign him. Chelsea have already signed 3 forwards this summer. That has led to reports that they may have to sell some forwards as well. Who knows, Nicholas Jackson may be leaving, but there is a lot of interest in Madueke, especially from Arsenal. And I think from Chelsea's perspective, they're expecting an offer to come in from Arsenal over the next few days or weeks. Probably, perhaps you would think from Arsenal's point of view, it would be best done once this tournament is out of the way. But I think if the price is right, Chelsea may be tempted to sell, because Chelsea's perspective on the transfer market is that they're not just going to be spending hundreds of £1 million on players. If you actually look at Chelsea's net spend, yes, they are big buyers in the transfer market, but they're also big sellers. And I get the sense that if they did get offers which were sort of in the range of what they would accept as being sort of fair offers, I think they may decide that now is the time to sell players like Madueke or Jack